are at Laguna Surf and Sport for ASB's first podcast, and feel very privileged to be here with EJ, a good friend of mine who I worked with at Volcom, and Watto, his longtime manager, and we'll just kick off this interview and see how we go. So how did your first surf shop come about, EJ?
Well, this is reminiscent to a conversation we had earlier.
Absolutely.
I was a kid. I grew up in Huntington Beach, and I was a kid. I was a kid there working in surf shops. I worked in several different surf shops, and I seriously, I'm gonna kick your ass, Roger. If you start doing
do it for the
okay.
Surf and Sport Instagram.
Yeah, like a grom back there. But I was going to Long Beach State. I was 22 years old, and I was working in Huntington Surf and Sport with Aaron. And back in those days, your O'Neill dealership made your business viable. Either you're going to stay in business or not in business. And no one with an O'Neill dealership ever went out of business. So they had this rep that was just like a father figure to everybody. And he just goes, "Hey boys, there's the shops down in Laguna Beach are blowing it. You guys should open a store down there." And Aaron and I decided to open one. I bought Aaron out about a year later. I finished up school, but I just got kind of thrust into this Laguna Beach market, which has turned out to be a real blessing in my life because it's a small town with a great vibe, really, really good surfers. It's been a good go, but that's how I got down here, totally by happenstance.
Yeah, right. And you were telling me it was a bit tough when you started. You didn't really get the open door.
Yeah, for sure. If we're going that way, then yep, for sure. It's a small town, a lot of reef breaks where you sit with reef breaks, you sit really close to the other people out in the water. I came from a beach break where people are pretty spread out, but here I was sitting 2 feet away from guys that wanted nothing to do with me. I had a floral wetsuit and a pink rail board, and they're just like, "Who are you? Why are you here? Go!" And I'm just like, "Hey boys, I invested my life savings into this place, and ain't going anywhere.
Yeah,
I'm gonna open the shop should open in the next month or so, and I'm gonna be out here every day. So, you guys want to have a go? Let's have a go, and we'll do it again tomorrow too. But I'm here to stay."
Yeah, and how did you overcome? I remember you said you had one guy that was really particular about you being here.
Yeah.
How did you fix that situation?
Well, there was a guy that he was arguably the best surfer in town, and he was a kid. He's a total legend. He grew up to be a total legend. His name was Jack Denny. He had World Jungle surfwear, and he passed away from cancer a long time ago. A couple decades ago, but guy's really, really solid guy, and I had to go with him a couple times out in the water, but he was the best surfer in town. He was the most likely candidate to come our way. The progressive way. A lot of guys were riding single fins back then. We had thrusters shaped by Bob Hurley. We had really good surfboards, wetsuits, all that. Mm-hmm. And so I just go, "Hey Jack, come by the shop." And he thought it was something like I wanted to fight him again or something. And so he was pretty wary. But when he came by, I go, "Look, man, just grab a surfboard. As long as you hang on to that thing for a month before you sell it for a profit, you can have it for free." And sure enough, I saw him the next day out. Just his surfing has improved by like 50%. And then his brother was right behind him, Chuck, and all the guys that were interested in being progressive in town came our way, and we got our roots down pretty good after that. Yeah, so it was a free surfboard and a couple free wetsuits, and
find a way, hey?
Yeah,
Get it all
for sure.
happening. So you started in 1982, and it's 35 years ago. Over that time, do you remember some of those really good, memorable items that you sold a lot of? You could probably answer that one too, Watto.
Mm-hmm.
Those real killer items that you just stacked high and you sold every day. You got any memories of those?
Go for it, each.
Yeah, we do. He does. I do. There's what we call those things around here are flyers. We don't really put the core of our business down into those things, but when they're going, we back the truck up, and that would be, a little bit with the gotcha clam diggers. In the old days, you remember those like Mesopotamian ones that came past your knee?
Oh,
yeah. And then Gotcha made
I bought quite a few of those.
Yeah, that's because you were a kook. But
I was a Grom.
yeah, for sure.
I was into it.
And Gotcha also made a couple of canvas tops. One was called the Rear Guard. We're talking 30 years ago, and I still know the names of the styles.
Yeah.
And then Quicksilver was right behind that with the fleece they had, the mid-stripe fleece. They were like big puffy sleeping bags.
Yeah.
They had matching. They had like pink pants that went with a pink stripe on the white deal. Man, we had those things stacked to the roof. And over the years we get these oddball flyers too, like smash ball sets and beach games, and recently, as Jason would probably say, like the GoPros and the Yeti coolers, and when there's something out there like that, we go for it.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
And when those things, naturally, when those things drop off, your comps will suffer too, because there's no flyer around. There's not always a flyer. Like right now, there's not one.
Yeah.
But we always have our eyes open, and when we see like the trend really align with something like that, like we're on it. That's some of the easiest money we make around here.
Yeah, right. So when did you come and work for EJ?
Well, I started as just a kid in the shop. That would have been probably 93, or maybe 90, maybe a little before that, 92, 93, somewhere in there. High school kid, job working local trolley. I had a job down at like one of the local restaurants, but this was the surf shop I hung out in. And so I'd mentioned to the guys, hey, if the little opportunity comes here, let me know. And then eventually it did. So I just started as a high school kid, working in the store and putting in my time, working with all my, my guys that I looked up to.
And now you've been a manager for a long time.
Yeah,
and
I just held down the management position forever and ever, and now officially an owner in the business, thanks to hanging around this guy for all this time. And
it's been a bit of a breeding ground, this shop, hasn't it? I mean, there's a lot of people come into this store, work, and go on to bigger and better things, I guess, if we can say that.
Yeah.
This place is really...
I watched that
like
too.
any surf shop. I mean, I had a lot of people go through my surf shop too and end up reps and all sorts of things. And I think you were saying, EJ, that you only have people for a short time normally, don't you?
Yeah. Well, it's because being a business this size, we don't have the capability to keep and support people endlessly, into their lifetimes. There's no one that's working here, that's working for wages here, that is that has a wife and kids and that sort of thing. So I view this as a place for a graduation. So I get good people, they come, we have our lives intersect intensively for a period of time, and then they graduate, and I help them with their job placement out in the real world, and invariably they always end up doing better than me.
I find that hard to believe, but anyway. But you found, and you wouldn't do it for the return. You found a good return on your business by looking after people.
Yeah, for sure. And on my life, it's just kind of how I want to live my life. I don't. There's certain things I'll do for money and certain things I won't. And there's, like I was telling you before, I wouldn't honestly, like if someone came up and had a freaking $200 million cash and they were going to give it to me, but a whole bunch of people would think I was an asshole, I wouldn't take it, honestly. I would rather have people think well of me and have a little bit less money. Yeah. I'm not complaining about the money I have, but I would, it's important to me what people think of me. And that's more important than like the size of my bank account. I'm not looking to retire or stop working or this. There's a real, like in this surf shop, there's a really, really strong sense of purpose that augments pretty much everyone's life that's connected with it. It's not just mine, it's like a movement that, like, him being a partner isn't because of me, it's because of what he's done here. And the visceral connection that people feel to this place is because it's not any one person, it's like the movement that exists here. It's a community movement.
It's a real community shop. I mean, just yesterday I was hanging out with you guys, and so many people came in and dropping in and saying hi and that. What's your feeling? Because you're that person that came through and has gone on to be a part of the store.
Yeah, I mean that is.
You've seen it happen a lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm connected to. That's who I am too. I grew up a kid on the beach here, kind of a latchkey kid or whatever they call it. And a surf shop is like the perfect place for a kid like that, you know.
Yeah.
And so before you know it, this place starts to feel like an extension of your home, your family. The boys here, you know, back then boys could get away with a little bit of hazing and stuff, but that's all like kind of brotherly love, and that stuff just connected me even more. And so to this day, you know, we don't the strategy of the connection may be different because you can't, you know, get away with some of that stuff, but you know, this is a community spot. All the guys and girls that work here, we're all connected family, and we just love, I mean, I love working with this community, and I know that once the guys work here long enough, they do too. You know, it takes, and they already love it, but then when they get in here and they start working, and you know, 6 months goes by, they just love it that much more, and so.
Yeah, it's very, very evident. So, what's the best thing you've ever done and brought the best results in your career in the retail game?
You know,
is there one thing that stands out that you can remember?
There are so many things that stand out, but if we were going to, I guess if I was going to say something, I would say, because I was just thinking about this, you know, it's you know, a lot of times the fast pace of our lives, we don't reflect much. And then when we do something like this, we reflect.
Yeah.
And we, you know, I was thinking, and one of the things that crossed my mind was these trips to Tavarua we used to always take. Like, I used to pay for everyone to go to Tavarua. Like, it was pretty amazing. You know, it would be after Christmas time, so it'd be around in February. In those days, no one went there in February because you'd get the odd cyclone, but you'd also get glassy conditions and really good surf. It was hot too, and bugs. Yeah. But there was no one there, so they would just like let us run rampant over the place, drive the boats, go wherever we want. You know, it was pretty fun. And we, in those days, we were selling snowboards here. Like, this basement was full of snowboards, and most of, hopefully no one gets pissed, but most of what we sold was to Japanese guys on the gray market. So there would literally be Japanese guys walking in here with $100,000 cash in a briefcase, and they could barely speak English.
Wow.
And they're going, can I buy every Burton under 148? And you're going, I don't know. And they go, can I have 10% off? You go, no. Can I pay no tax? Nah. Will you sell them to me? Okay. and so we had these huge sales happening, you know, mixed in with regular snowboard sales. We weren't as bad as most, but we were bad. And then we would have this big accumulation of cash, and we'd all spend it together in Tavarua. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, okay. So this was in the 90s, wasn't it? Because I think we had the same thing going on in Australia with surfboards.
Was it late 90s?
There were a lot of people coming in and buying.
It was when I was in high school, which was 92 to, I mean, it was somewhere in that 90 to 98.
And we would have, so we would take this culture that we would develop here, and we'd take it to Tabby and add perfect surf, freedom to do anything we wanted, and lots of alcohol. And it was madness, like complete madness over there.
And only only just a few other guests. Yeah, besides us, it was basically our island.
And one of the stories that kind of illustrates the culture here is, like, the first time I took everybody over there, you know, it's a big deal, right? You got these Irie guys that have been going there in February with 0 guests. Like, there's like 2 or 3 or 4 guys, and they're like, oh shit, who are all these 15 Laguna people right on our head, who are like aggressive surfers and all that? Yeah,
wow.
Sure, yeah, a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And then like the guy would just be, oh shit, so, you know, he'd be moping around, and then he'd be like ringing us halfway through the next year, going, hey, you bringing all those guys again? It'd be sweet, you know, like the guy just gets won over by the affability of everybody that's involved in the shop, and the movement, the community, it's not just limited to this geography. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. You know, everyone that gets connected to it is like feels an affinity to it. And you see that from reps that live in different towns and stuff. They love the shop because it's pretty pure, and especially as stores like this kind of decrease, you know, out there.
Wow, that's a good story. You must miss those times, don't you?
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, you got to live it.
Yeah, well, it's tough for some of the younger guys that barely missed it. You know, and they're just like, damn, like, he didn't get to go on that many.
I only got to go on.
Too young.
I got 2.
Yeah, he got 2, and like the guy you met yesterday from Rourke, Ryan Hitzel, Vest, he got 1.
Yeah.
And you know, so some of those guys just only got one or two, but a couple of those guys plugged into like a half a dozen of those things.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take you another direction. What's the biggest mistake that you've ever made in your career with the surf shops? You care to share that with us?
You're looking at it right here.
Shows you can, turn around those mistakes.
I mean, it's not all smooth sailing. We know that. So,
is this when we bring Roger out to this side of the camera? I can't.
Sound guy.
I mean, I remember Quicksilver came out with these girls' underwear with Quicksilver on the banding. I thought these are going to rock it, and everyone was saying, no, be careful. And I backed up the truck, and I don't think I sold one.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
you got one of those, or?
No, I've made so many mistakes. It's hard to figure out which ones are the biggest ones, and a lot of.
Would it be buying? Would it be a lease? Or is there? You can generalise if you want.
Yeah, no.
So I think every other surf shop owner out there wants to know that they're not the only one that made mistakes.
Yeah, I took a couple of late shipments of snowboards like that were massive,
Mhm.
like the mistakes I've made were all on the side of being too aggressive, not
Right.
missing something, but just throwing long on something that didn't work out.
Roll the dice one more time. Sort of thing.
But honestly, like, say for example, like we had a couple of. All my best employees over the years have always pushed me, and so we had snowboard companies calling us back in the late 90s after Christmas going, hey, look, these super popular snowboards came in late. You've got a PO there. Can we ship them? And Brandy Faber, he would push me. Yeah, man, we should get them for sure. Get them. And as soon as we take them, we'd get a heat wave. All the snow would melt. And there'd be like a lot of snowboards down here, a lot. But in that mistake, there's always like positive lessons to be learned. So I just walked the whole staff down here. We looked at the snowboards in like March. It's hot out. I go, look, boys, how are we going to sell these snowboards? And they're like, God, I don't know. You shouldn't have bought. Yeah. Brandy's like, yeah. Well, what'd you get them, EJ? Like, but I go, this is how we're going to sell them, boys. We're going to sell them one board at a time. We're going to walk this thing out, and these boards are going to be gone by summertime.
Right.
And so we learned how to sell them one board at a time. It's a lot easier when a Japanese guy buys them all, but you can sell them one board at a time.
Yeah.
And so we learned to look at a problem that looked insurmountable, and how to walk that problem out one day at a time, get better. There's a lot of life lessons in the surf shop.
Yeah.
So every big mistake probably is full of life lessons for me, my family, my extended family, everybody but him.
So, I've been talking to you a fair bit and worked with you at Volcom. You have a great philosophy on what makes a successful retail store. I'd like to hear that again because...
it's my philosophy on this store is one is from a corporate perspective or from a business perspective. When you look around and your environment's changing, you have to adjust the way you do things. Because if you just do the same thing in a changing environment, you're going to get buried. You're going to be a dinosaur that's going to turn into a pool of oil. Someone will be digging you up in Saudi Arabia like a million years from now. And so as this environment has changed, and it's changing rapidly right now, it's moving to Amazon. It's moving. There's this big internet threat. There's always been this big department store threat. And I know you guys have the same thing in Australia.
Yeah.
And the way we respond to that is by accentuating the visceral feeling here, the experience in the surf shop. And the closest thing I can think of to it right now would be like a artisan brewery, like a one-off brewery where guys are sitting around drinking those hoppy beers that are expensive, but they're enjoying the experience. They're in there with their chicks, sometimes their kids, and they're living it up. And there isn't one fool in those breweries that's going, gosh, I wish I was at Chili's having a Corona for $5 cheaper. Yeah. They don't think like that. Those are quality people pushing into an experience. We have the same thing here. Quality people pushing into the experience of the surf shop. And when you have sterile retail like shopping price on Amazon or Surf Stitch or Swell or whatever you want, that's sterile. That's not a visceral experience, and there's always going to be people that are going to gravitate towards that sterile experience, but we're okay without those guys because we just press into the experience we offer, and it seems to resonate with our community.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that firsthand. And who's the boss in your business?
Who's the boss here?
Yeah.
Him?
Customer.
Well, we all work for the customer. We all.
That's why
Yeah.
he's the manager.
He usually says that.
Yeah.
I don't know how he beat him to it on that one.
we all. I never call the customer really the boss, but we all work for the customer.
There we go.
Yeah.
He makes this guy makes most of the business decisions, the operational decisions. So
Yeah.
he's the guy that directs it. But you know, one of the biggest misnomers in our industry is big corporate entities with executives never get on the other side of their moat, you know, out into the real world, into the villages, and you know, they're stuck in their ivory towers, and they lose track of the fact that they actually work for the end user. The end user, the kid, that, like, that's where the passion is in this whole thing. It's when some grom comes in and buys a wetsuit top and ear-to-ear grin, and we're blessed to be close enough to the beach where the guy will just run across the street and go surfing, and you're going,
Yeah.
that kid is surf stoked. You know, for all the jaded old guys that you have that are like, surf shit, to just plug into one of those grommet stokes just changes everything.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that's why I would never want to retire. Even with the opportunity, like, how could I justify like moving away from seeing a kid like that? I saw thousands of kids this summer like that.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, there was kids here yesterday, wasn't there? And
Yeah,
you
there
guys
was.
had to mop up the floor. There was kids in wetsuits everywhere. I mean, it's just such a great location across the road from the beach. And
You see, a lot of really
The
good things in
vibe
this
is
life are really
amazing.
messy.
And
end
you
up-
were
have
saying
to
how
mop up the floor afterwards.
you've
Yeah.
seen generation after generation go through the store, and you
Yeah,
know, obviously keeps you stoked. And
It's crazy, you know. When I first started doing this, there was parents that would come in, you know, holding. They would be shopping for their kid that's that big, but they'd be holding an infant when they're in here. And that infant like walks in here now with kids this big, and I see them grow up there, and they're quality people, man. There's just like there's something special, you know. It's like I'm privileged to be able to do this versus
Yeah.
like working in some office somewhere under fluoro lights for 14 hours a day.
yeah,
It's cool working at Laguna Surf and Sport.
I can see that. And the funny thing is that you and I haven't got older. It's
Yeah.
just a miracle how that happens.
Absolute
It's so
miracle.
good.
It's
That's-
a miracle.
If you want to stay young, buy a surf shop.
Yeah.
What have you found was better back in the old days, and what's better now? You know what I mean? Like, was there things we did back then in surf shops or in business that were better? And of course, technology's come through now, and that's made life easier in that direction. But is there something that we don't do anymore that was better back then?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. It's unfortunately it's in the old days there was a lot more room to make mistakes that weren't catastrophic to your business. So you had a margin for error. There was a forgiveness. There was a play in that, you know, in your business, and that's why there were so many more surf shops in the old days than there are now,
Right.
because there was a margin for error. You could waste money. You could throw along and make a mistake. You could take your staff to Tavarua. Didn't matter. You didn't need those cash reserves because there was a margin for error. And these days, there's no margin for error. You got to be on top of your POS, your reports. You've got to be harder with the vendors. You've got to be harder with like almost every aspect of your business. Where in the old days, you could have a more laissez-faire attitude about the way things were going on, and it like
Absolutely.
it was pretty fun, you know, to have that margin.
Yeah, right. I mean, we didn't look at reports, did we, really,
No.
back in the day?
That was like,
I think I found out off the accountant at the end of the year how well I did.
yeah, for sure.
Oh, we're still going, are we?
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
wish I had been around for that.
Yeah.
You were. You just weren't paying
I was,
attention.
yeah, I was-
Two old dinosaurs going at it. You've had a few competitors over the years, and you've had the problem competitor that we've always had. How did you deal with that? What was your approach?
Well, it's I just tried to differentiate us. Oh, and look, I've never ever taken it easy on my competitors. You know, it's I've always figured that. Look, it's not fun being down the street from Laguna Surf and Sport in a competitive business. That's like we're kumbaya with the whole community, with everything else, with all of you. But when you come after our business, we have to defend it, you know. And And I'm a firm believer in the fact that if you let a weed grow in your garden, it can get too big to pull out. So when a competitor comes in, you have to kind of go after them. And so over the years, we've had real tough competitors that stock the same brands that came specifically at us. And we've also had some competitors that of guys that come from town that are shapers that we come alongside and create compatibility with, because they're not really coming after our business, they're just trying to open a business or expand what they do. So that there's it's kind of a twofold deal. And this is the thing about this town. And okay, so the town's a reef break, right? It's reef breaks. You sit close to each other. The norms of surfing society are still enforced here. It's like not like Huntington Beach where Groms behave around here. They do.
Yep.
Because of guys like him, the way it just all filters down, just like the old days. And so this is a very special place. This town, this community, and we can't allow it to get completely overrun with corporate stores or with stores that have lost the plot, that have better margins or less OPEX or whatever. And luckily, this place is so quality that the consumers here recognize and appreciate a community store, and they're not willing to go down and shop at some generic store in order to save $1 on a pair of board shorts. They recognize the benefits and the way we look after their kids and all the things going on here. So that's really the driver in why we go after our competitors so hard. But over the years, we've had some really gnarly competitors. But tell you what, we've always been standing at the end of it all, always.
Yeah.
And we always will.
35 years says enough, doesn't it? How do you choose which brands you carry in your store, and which of the new brands performing well for you?
I would say, as far as choosing the brands, I mean, the key is to know your store, know your customers, know who you are, and then when you're looking at a line or listening to someone approaching you with a possible new line, whatever, just really trying to feel out if that's going to work in your store. So I mean, that's what I listen to the most. Also, relationships a little bit, like giving someone a chance that we've had an existing relationship with, that we know has done a good job, and we have confidence that they'll give it their all, and as long as we know they'll give it their all, then we're willing to give them a shot in the store. In regards to competitors, I guess also paying attention to maybe what a store might have down the street, trying to make sure that we're differentiating there. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, between those relationships and knowing the person that's maybe starting the brand or a brand that's maybe already solid, and knowing who we are, those are the two things that I listen to the most before jumping on board. Yeah. As far as brands that we're doing well with, we've started, Vizsla has done really well for us as a new brand. Rourke also doing really well for us, and then Ruka and Volcom continue to do well in our store also. Salty Cruise, a new line that has got a cool vibe going on too. It's totally different.
Is that the fishing?
That's the fishing one, yeah.
That's really cool. I like that.
Just yesterday I gave a guy one of their Rocks and Docks ruler stickers. I said, hey, do you fish? Because I don't really fish. So I have to kind of approach people kind of like, hey,
But a lot of surfers fish, right? Like a lot of momates who surf fish, and they're good at it.
This guy,
I can't understand why there hasn't been more fishing brands in surf shops. I mean, it just makes sense, doesn't it? It's coming. Yeah. That's the new avenue. Huh? Yeah. And Rourke, that new brand you just said, that's one of your ex-employees, right? Yeah,
he's, as he mentioned in the Tabby stories there, Ryan Hitzel was, he worked here through high school also. He's an artistic guy. He went that way and worked at Volcom, and after Laguna Surf and Sport in college, he worked at Volcom, and he was in their design team for I don't know how many years, but he went on to LA and working in a higher kind of graphic design world, doing things for Coca-Cola and ketchup and all that stuff, and eventually wanted to get back to this industry, saw it, and it just it was a timing thing. So he was able to start a brand when the industry was looking for new, interesting, cool things. and then
Yeah,
until
it's a
we're all
great
set.
story, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's two things about him too. He's part of the family.
Yeah.
He always will be. Like, this is another one of those community. It's like the mafia. Like, once you're in this family, you can't get out. Like, you can't do anything to get excommunicated. You just can't.
Yeah,
You can open a store down the street. You'd still be part of the family when it's all said and done. And I've almost never abused a Grom as hard as I abused that kid when he was growing up. So there's no way we will never support Rourke. I don't care
Yeah.
what they come out with. We're going to buy it.
Yeah,
We're going to do
right.
our best to sell it because
Right.
just for all the abuse I gave that kid growing up.
But thankfully, it's going good for you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
nice
that's
that it's
good.
working.
Yeah.
It's really good. So I'll probably put this question to you, Watto.
Okay.
What's the best advice you've ever been given in retail?
Ooh, that's trying to think. I don't know.
Because it probably came from this guy.
Yeah, well,
It came from Brandy too.
it
'cause he
could
was
have. Yeah, I
Brandy's,
had some
number
good. I had good leaders. You know, Brandy Faber and even Bill Bryan back in the day here, and Trisha Miller. I don't know if anybody. I don't know if I can pick up something that was specifically told to me, but what I did might have come from each.
Yeah,
What I
if you
did,
worked
it
it
was more
out,
just
yeah.
I worked it out, captured was, you know, to really listen and take your time a little bit with things because aside from seeing an opportunity and throwing long on it, you know, but just like, you know, as things come and go, sometimes things feel like it's a big deal, and then if you just hold on and stay kind of locked into what you do best and this, that, be surprised that as you come out on the other side, you know, you're on top or
Yeah.
you're at least just as strong as you were as you went in. And so I think that, you know, like I said, listening, taking your time and just staying positive is probably the three things that I kind of hold on to.
I
And
think,
just stick with.
I kind of agree with it. I think what I learned over the years was don't panic. You know,
Yeah.
in the early days, you're like,
Mhm.
oh, we had a shit day.
Yeah.
So it's all over.
Oh yeah, and you know, and to be able to have each to go to in so many different things as you know, like, oh, a competitor's doing this or this, that, and another, to be able to bounce it off him, and we, you know, either he's got something really wise to say right off the bat, or
Something
it
really
takes,
stupid.
or we bounce it off each other a few times, and then you come out with the right answer. So
So
Yeah.
the mafia, we can call him the Godfather, right?
I do frequently. So
Hey,
He
but
started
not
the
maybe
mafia
to his face,
stuff.
but
Grandfather.
If
I don't know if we're going to make it out of this dungeon.
yeah.
if you ask me what the best bit of advice I ever got
Yeah,
was
I'd
early
love to
days.
hear
I had an old guy come up to me and you know when I was a kid, like just transitioning over from Huntington Surf and Sport, I had a big ego and you know I was a dick, a surfer, you know, like I thought I was really like awesome stuff, and he came up and he goes dude, you need to like chill out and be humble because you're selling short pants for men. You're not curing cancer. And so that really resonated with me. And it seemed, it just pointed out the ridiculousness of thinking that you're a better person than someone else because you surf better than they do. That's absurd. Or
Yeah, well,
because because you make a little bit of money, you plug into that, your friends help you do this. Like you've got to keep it humble. And in order to teach your crew and build community,
Yeah.
you got to be the first guy to dig into the shittiest tasks there are. You got to be a servant leader, you know, and that's how you develop character all the way down. Like soup to nuts around here, our whole crew,
Yeah.
there's character. Like there's nobody with shoddy character, not one guy.
Yeah.
And he develops the character in the crew by being the first guy to dive into cleaning the bathroom or to doing a really hideous job in the basement. And that's how you permeate that humility, which builds community and customers respond to because they are our boss.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well said. I agree with that. So we've got a EJ here, long-time store owner. You've sold the store twice. You've bought it back twice. I don't know anyone that's ever done that. So you first sold the store in 2002. Who was that to, and how did that come about?
Well, we got pinched in a cash flow crisis, and I was like, I don't know, I must have been having some kind of breakdown, but I sold it. Swell, that's a long story, but I sold it to Swell, and I went to work there and helped in those days, they didn't have that many good vendors. They didn't have Quicksilver, Roxy. They didn't have Volcom.
So this is the online store, right?
Yeah.
So they must have been really early days.
Early days.
Yeah.
And
They didn't have anything
And they
good.
were cashed up.
Yeah, they were cashed up, and so I did that. I went to work there. I got all their, I helped them get all those lines. I put all those deals together, and I worked with some great people there that were really smart. They're all long gone, but they were really, really smart, good, pretty pure people. They were kooks, they didn't even, they were just learning how to surf and stuff, but they were really good people, and I worked with them, and when it started to get a little wonk through it, they all, the reason they did the deal is because they knew that I could put together those deals for the brands for them. And once they got the brands, we just kind of pulled the deal apart, and because I felt like the wheels coming off there. They didn't come off then, they hung around for another decade, but yeah, it was wobbly. It wasn't a good work environment for me at all, and so we just worked it out.
So you bought it back off them?
Yeah.
How many years later was that? Sorry.
That was wasn't that long? Maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, that's
wow.
what I guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got to put Pat O'Connell on the surf team.
You did, yeah.
Remember that?
You almost puked on their CEO. Remember when you were coming in
remember that
hungover on that
too.
first time?
I do
I looked at
remember that
him in
too.
the middle of a meeting, and he was just green.
I was like, can we pull these blinds down a little bit further?
I was going, here it's coming. He's going to yak on this guy. That would have been awesome.
So how was the store after that period of you not owning it? Did you did you poke around in the store much?
Oh yeah. I was
You sort of
around,
kept your
and
finger on
I protected the store from those guys. Nothing changed at the store.
it? Right. Okay.
But, besides, they were a little bit, maybe slightly annoying to the store, but
Yeah.
no changes at all. And so it was pretty seamless, like going in and going out.
Right.
And
So you came back and you were there at the time.
Yeah.
yeah,
So it was
I'm
like
flashing back to some orange
hallelujah,
Hurley
he's
jackets
back
or
and-
something, but
well,
those were real.
yeah, and we went, as soon as we came out of buying it back, we went straight into the Laguna Beach phase of this store. MTV had a huge series called Laguna Beach.
How did we forget that as one of
to
the
kind
big,
of,
big good times?
to kind of accentuate whatever rich kids in Laguna Beach, but the as it turned out, the star of the show worked in our store.
Wow.
His name was Stephen Coletti, and
Wow.
he was
a
was
bunch of Aussie chicks were over here just ready to give it a
it was
go.
madness.
Really, you were
Oh, yeah.
pinching my customers?
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
100%.
For
Yes.
for 2 years, we would walk in on what should have been the shittiest day of the whole year. We'd walk in February, be pissing down rain, be cold. Hardly ever gets cold in California, freezing ass. I go, okay, cool. We're gonna have a negative day. Sometimes we'd have a negative day, a couple returns, and we'd
sure.
I'd make these guys print up the thing, we'd frame it and put it on the wall. But in those 2 years, I would walk in here and I would see as soon as I turned the corner in, the place would be completely full of young girls, high school girls that are maybe out in California for a cheerleading competition, made their bus driver take them from a couple hours away to here. And they're standing on their cell phones going, no, I swear to God, I'm standing in it. It's real. It's real. I'm standing here. And just sweatshirts, all this stuff's going up to the top. It was butter.
Were they filming on site in the
Yeah,
shop?
they filmed on site all the time.
In the
He was
shop?
on the show a bunch.
We filmed down here in the basement. We filmed up. I mean,
Those are films you don't want to see. But yeah.
we did. Anyways, they.
That must have been killer for the store.
That was insane.
That would
It
you
was
can't
killer.
you can't pay for that.
No.
That's insane.
And I remember the girls or the cast crew.
You remember the girls?
Showing, I remember the girls, and I remember the crew was going, "Hey, you were gonna better really get ready for this, with your Laguna Surf and Sport product, And I'm going, yeah, no, we're good, we're ready, we'll get ready, increase buys a little bit, no worries, but no idea what they meant when they said that, I didn't know that I would be moving racks out of the way so the high school cheer team from who knows where could do their skit on our floor.
Wow.
Because that's how excited the girls got when they got
And
here.
who was the guy? He was working in the store.
Yeah,
He was no, at that point. So they
you
filmed they filmed for 6 months prior to the show launching. So he was in the store then, but by the time the show launched, he actually left college. So he wasn't in the store once it was live and the viewers were all watching it. So it was actually good timing because otherwise he could have been eaten alive.
Oh,
Yeah,
but I would have put him on every day, long shifts.
I would have if I could have, but he.
Chained to the
We were
camera.
gonna blow him up on a.
Yeah.
We had a lot of plans, but we
It
you
did.
know?
It didn't matter. You know,
It
he
didn't.
he
It's
couldn't
just
he couldn't
coming
even
through the
walk
door.
down the street at that point. You know, and
That's a great story.
and he was on the show a bunch. Like his mug was on MTV a bunch, and some of the other guys too. So all the girls, mostly girls, all the girls that would come in here, they were more than happy to take pictures with these guys out front. I mean, every time I drove by, they were out posing with like a couple bush pigs from
Yeah.
like who knows where, just like.
It was-
So you're the bass player.
Yeah,
You're like,
we had the-
I'm in the band.
We had the phone,
100%.
the same telephone that was on the show, and he, for whatever reason, he was on the phone quite a bit in the shots, and the stickers were on it, whatever, you know, and I could just go, check it out, the phone, and they would just,
Fun.
that was the classic shot, you know, behind the counter with
wow.
that phone in their ear.
Everyone would love that.
Yeah,
something
so
like
and still
that.
to this day, you get people walking in. It's very, very few, but it starts a little uncomfortable because they're like 35 now or
Yeah,
28 or whatever it is, and they say, "I hate to say this, but is this the place?" And we just like, "Yes, it is. Of course it is." Like,
Yeah.
come in, and then they just
So
fall in love with the
that
place.
kicked off the brand because you have a really strong following with your house brand, don't you? With your
Terje helped a little bit too.
Yeah, it's in. Well,
what's it?
you want to hear that story?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to hear
I
that
wanna hear
story
all
because
the
that actually
stories.
does count a lot.
So we had.
This is Target you're talking about.
This is
No.
Terje
This is-
Hawkinson, pro
So
snowboarder.
this is back in
right.
the
Oh,
Not
back in
Tarje, Terje.
back in the snowboard. You can
Oh.
edit this too if you like to need to snip some stuff out. Roger will help you. But
Yeah.
It's all right.
we back in the 90s, right? We had in those days when Volcom was first building their brand.
Oh, yeah.
We had like all these radical snowboarders. Brian Iguchi, Brian was a really popular pro snowboarder. His brother worked here, Greg, and Terje Hawkinson, Johan Olofsson. They all were like frothing to surf and learn how to surf. So they spent time in this basement, lots. And one day I go, and we had all our our private label like you see around here, our Laguna Surf and Sport gear, and I just like took a trash bag, filled it up with our private label, and I gave it to Brian Iguchi. I go, look, man, I don't expect you to wear this. I'd be stoked if you did, but use this as swag. Give it to the people you meet, girls, someone cool, just whatever. I just gave him a bag full of stuff. It was probably $500 worth of stuff. Just gave it to him. And then the next year, this guy, Mac Dog, would come out with these snowboard videos before the season, and it would set the trends for the whole season. Half of the movie was Terje Hawkinson, the best snowboarder in the world, wearing our sweatshirt.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So I never even met the guy.
Wow.
Like, whatever. Like
In a half
rough.
pipe.
Wow.
Launching LSS
Awesome.
star
Yeah.
logo.
And-
It's
and-
like,
You've had some wins.
Yeah, and that's-
It's a great place, Laguna.
Yeah,
it really
and
is.
that was directly tied into those Japanese guys with $100,000 in their briefcases because they
right.
watch that movie and go, okay, cool, I got to find this place. Like it's probably
Yeah.
pretty rad.
Yeah.
And-
of course. Getting that sort of fun.
those are those nice little elevators, just like kick
Yeah.
things up.
Makes life
Exposure
easier,
a little
for
bit.
Sure.
And look, it's fun and it ties back into the passion because you have never seen passionate surf turkeys like these rich snowboard guys who are really, really good snowboarders. When they got hooked, they were taking boat trips in the Mentawais and like they were learning how to surf over like at Canduis. They're out of their minds, but they're so
'cause
fired
they used
up.
to charge you.
Yeah.
but yeah.
And now they surf.
Yeah.
And now they're good surfers. They all
Yeah.
surf better than me. And that was pretty pure to watch.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
J Dog, I'm bummed J Dog's not here because he was instrumental in that transition. He had already he was manager before.
Yeah.
He'd already transitioned to Volcom. He was a really good snowboarder, but he was a surf turkey at heart. And
Right.
these guys got to know him, and they go, hey, what is this about? We want to learn about these European snowboarders. We want to learn about this surfing stuff. Like,
Yeah.
take us surfing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Then it was on.
Almost the whole world, didn't it? I used to have every sports type of person coming to my store wanting to surf. you
Yeah,
know?
Right.
sure.
Yeah, it's great because suddenly we were the kings.
Why would you want to do that in Manly though?
Well, it's nearly as good as Laguna. I'll give you that. And you mentioned J Dog there. He's our partner in the business since you bought it back from Volcom. But he was another employee that he went on to be CEO of Volcom,
Yeah.
which is another one that should be a Hall of Fame wall or something here.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
And it was
incredible.
weird because he was my boss for a little while when I was at
Yeah, I
Volcom.
remember. Not that you took any notice of him at Volcom anyway. I don't
No,
think.
well, he pushed hard enough to get the combi and the motorcycle out of your store.
He did, yeah, gutted me.
I
That's right.
should have sat him down on that one.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
don't worry, I'll get him.
I came up short on that. Sorry.
I'll get him. No, that's okay. So the second time you sold the store was in 2008, and it was to Volcom.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I was, you know, when around the year 2000, I think Arnett sold to Ray-Ban. Arnett Sunglasses sold to Ray-Ban, and sold to Luxottica. And there was a core of people at Arnett Sunglasses that peeled off. One of the guys, Mike Carter, who also ex-employee here, and they wanted to start electric sunglasses in the year 2000. And so I threw in, I threw in some pretty big money for me, and I was one of the founders of Electric. We built that brand through, and we got kicked right in the teeth when the 9/11, in 2001, all that stuff, like it hurt us bad.
Yeah.
Way worse than the GFC, and but we built that brand. Volcom wanted to buy it. I was really deeply involved in the M&A transaction, where Volcom bought Electric, and at the same time I was getting calls from Hurley, Nike. They wanted to buy the stores. I felt like I don't know what I felt like maybe they were bummed that Electric was being bought by Volcom or something, and I started to get down the track with those guys, and I just sent up a flare to Volcom because J-Dog was my bro, he worked for me, and I go, hey, look, I'm probably going to sell these to Nike, and he's like, hey man, let us throw our hat in the ring, it's always been a special place to us, and his emotional connection. I ended up selling it to Volcom.
Right.
And I went to work at Volcom. I worked with some great guys, Jeff Roberts in retail, and Rocky Taylor, yourself, Gatan, this global team.
Big D.
Yeah.
Big D in Australia.
For sure.
Dougal
Yeah.
Walker.
Oh, Dougal's such a legend. It's just, Dougal's one of those guys that, there's very few people in this world that if I disagree with them, I just automatically go, I must be wrong because that guy's always right. Dougal's one of those guys. Where if I have a differing opinion than Dougal, I just assume I'm wrong and he's right.
Yeah.
Because he's such a legend. And
Sure,
but I got a chance to grow into this global retail role, and then it even expanded when Kering bought.
Yeah, you were head of retail
Yeah.
at Volcom globally.
Yeah,
For the whole world.
and it expanded when Kering bought Volcom, and it was a super challenging corporate crazy environment, but it was super fun. Like working with guys like yourself and going down to Oz and surfing and just like the personalities and characters that I would meet, because I'm a humanities guy 100%, way more than business, and just from a humanities standpoint, like to meet all these crazy characters and go surfing and enjoy life, learn how to enjoy life better.
Yeah.
I got a lot of that. For all the suffering I did in that corporate environment, there was a lot of benefit for me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because I did cross over into that world too, and you were my big boss. But how did you? What was it? A shock? What that world was like, because you'd worked for yourself all the time, leading up to that.
Yeah, it was a crazy shock, and it was I was astounded by some of the characters and personalities in high positions at gigantic companies that did bonehead stuff and made poor business decisions and let their ego get involved with what should have been straightforward, pragmatic business decisions, to mess them up, and just all the inefficiencies and wasted money. That's part of what, look, part of the reason I like working with Australians so much when I was there is because they're really pragmatic. They don't like to waste money. They don't there's no lavish lifestyles. It's like salt of the earth stuff. And that's what resonates with me in my core. But corporately, there wasn't a whole lot of that out there.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. How did your shop perform? How did Laguna Surf and Sport perform while Volcom owned it? Did it suffer or?
No, it thrived. It had nothing changed here, and we didn't get golf clubs. There wasn't any new faces coming in like bossing anyone around. Right. All there was a little bit of structure built underneath it, which really helped us where we are today. We benefited from being owned by Volcom because we learned a lot about those basic things that have to happen in retail, like HR, how to deal with problems, how to prevent problems from happening. Jason worked extensively with a lot of teams there, not because they were imposing themselves on him, but because he wanted to, and he wanted to learn, and so we're a lot better at what we do today because of that experience. And the store was far and away the generated the biggest profit of any store the whole time that it was owned by Volcom.
Yeah.
So it made more net income than any other Volcom owned store.
Yeah, right. It's all the world.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I remember seeing those figures, and I was pretty jealous of what I was seeing coming out of here.
Not really the situation you want to create if you're planning on buying it back later. But
no, of course not. Of course not. So that's an interesting aspect that you found you learn a lot from that.
Yeah,
Volcom,
I mean,
Volcom ownership experience and that. And
yeah, definitely. I mean, I got whoever I got to work with. I took time and just listened and tried to gather as much as I could, hoping that maybe one day I'm going to be a business owner myself, and these are all important things to know. So
absolutely,
that's definitely 100%. It strengthened me. It strengthened the store, being part of that. And I mean, I didn't go to college. I've just been a retailer at Grom, Surf, Rother, working with DJ and a bunch of other great guys. But those are little experiences I looked at as an educational experience to be able to all right, I need to listen in. So definitely helped.
And aside from, last thing I'll say about that is, aside from everything else, there was a lot of great people that worked at Volcom. There still is.
Yeah.
And as so often happens, like attracts like. So the great people were attracted to this store. We were attracted to the great people. So the people that we interacted with and learned from were all really, really quality people. They still are. And we stay in touch.
Yeah.
Like I was saying about the family, can't leave the family. And there's a lot of Volcom people in that family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a great experience for me, and I agree. I learned a lot of things that I think we neglect as surf shop owners, and it's what we've got to do these days is know the legalities, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with staffing
and the times from
customers.
Sure.
The times from 2008 to that period, which started late 2008, was right when Obama got elected. The Affordable Care Act came out, the mandatory health insurance, all that stuff, and like the environment was changing, and it was beyond our understanding. But they had people there whose job it was just to navigate that and explain it to people that whose job it wasn't to navigate that. And so we learned a lot, and now that's all part of our toolkit now.
Yeah, yeah. So it's good. It's good positive side.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk back into the store. What are you? EJ's back again. You've taken him back a second time. It's a pretty good job there.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking yesterday, and the turnover. What happened to the turnover once you guys got back in control? You had a pretty good summer, I believe.
Yeah. Like I think I said, it took a little bit of time to just. I mean, for myself especially, not ever owning Laguna Surf and Sport, and always just working with EJ and being a manager. It took me some time to kind of understand the gear change of how to get things done.
You're now a
Yeah.
business partner,
Yeah.
and also J-Dog, Jason Steris, has become a partner too.
And what to really pay attention to, and this new path that will with the store, and not trying to walk away from anything, but just there's certain things that maybe I wasn't paying attention to enough, that now that you own a business that really can help you. So just those types of things. But the turnover was pretty darn smooth. I mean, we had a great first summer, and but we had an even better second. I feel like we really hit the good gear last February, March, revving up, and EJ working with me in the store, working with us all summer in the store, having a lot of fun, but just staying on our inventory levels in the key areas. And
you're on the floor.
Yeah.
You get on the
sure.
floor.
Yeah.
Getting back, like
Scare
you
the
said.
customers a little. Yeah.
I mean, I've looked around your store. Your inventory is way down. It looks really spot on. I'd have to say
Yeah.
you must be happy with that. I mean, you've got 5 bikinis left. I mean, that's,
we're
I don't know if there's a box hiding somewhere.
No,
we're super happy with that, and
Right.
we had to. First of all, what I would say about your last question would be, we had a protracted negotiation period coming out. It took 4 months to put the deal back together, and when it looked like the deal was really likely to happen, they wound down their side of it. So we started with a trip. This place was pretty shoddy when we first, like when we turned the key on April 1. We were really low on a lot of stuff, and we had a lot of work to do. So we started the race with, it's like tripping out of the blocks, and then we had to catch up to everybody, and we've really hit our stride now. And being owned by a big corporation, you don't think too much about cash flow. It's like cash flow, paying your bills. It's just a minor detail. You're just, whereas when you own the shop, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
and so
if balance.
Yeah, if you overbuy, you don't have cash to pay your bills. Vendors get pissed. You get put on. I mean, it cycles down pretty fast. That wasn't even a possibility being owned by Volcom. That's one of the many new disciplines we've had to relearn.
Yeah.
On the other side of this deal, and one of the biggest changes that I saw is, when you have a really effective manager in a business situation, what do the customers always ask? The tourists, they go, "Hey, do you own this place?" And always he was like, "Yeah, nah, I'm the manager," But then come April 1st, he's like, "Yeah, I own the place." He started saying yes. It's crazy.
That took a little. I said no a few times just because I was so used to saying no.
What was their response? I mean, is there a difference between you saying no, I just work here, or?
Well, the two are.
Why were they asking that? Is it because you've given them good service, and or they want to find out who's the boss? I want to tell them about you, or
it's a combo. Like sometimes it's someone visiting that's just had great service, and so they're asking for those reasons, and then a lot of times. I mean, people I've worked here for a very, very long time, so people have watched me grow up in the store, and they're like, well, do you if they would have heard about it, but so then there's that where they're like, so you own the place now? Like, I'm working. Boom.
Most of the time, what I would see, it's at the end of a very good experience for kind of a new face. Yeah. So a tourist comes to town, they have a very good experience, then their way of like going, man, hey, this is real. This has been really killer. You own this place? Like, that's how it happens.
That's nice.
And it's always felt weird when he said, to me, to be honest, like for a long time it felt weird when he said no. Because it just felt weird. It just didn't seem right. And now it seems more right. Because
so it must be good for you. You've got two really good buddies with you in the business together. I mean, J-Dog's probably the one that's not here much, but you still get to talk to him and find, he's interested in the shop. And I think you were saying that you really want to enjoy it now.
And what also one of the things that so one of the primary motivators for me was to put the ownership on a more stable platform and to like include some of my friends if they wanted to that were good to me in my previous 8 years. And the second thing is, if we have a more stable age platform of ownership, which sounds really weird, then it increases the longevity of this store.
Absolutely.
So by including guys, especially other kids, look, my kids are through college right now, but his kids haven't started school yet, and J-Dog's kids are in elementary school. So J-Dog's kids are growing up through the store, and they're going to continue to grow up through the store all the way through into college, and so are his. That's going to secure the longevity of this place for 2 more decades.
Yeah, well, your son Curran was working there
yeah,
yesterday,
for sure.
So your kids are going to be way down, and
they are. His kids already are. They can barely talk, and they're like,
she's restocking wax.
Yeah,
fantastic, perfect.
And the wrong thing.
So what are your main challenges now? You've had the store a year and a half. There must be a big to-do list, is there? Or
there was. We're working through it. We still, after all this time, we need to get better at understanding our business and having systems in place that allow us to access accurate information quickly. That sounds kind of like the tool bag part of the interview, but like we need a new POS system.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, do you have a really good POS system?
We do not. We have a POS system that's a little bit better than our website.
Right, yeah. Well, how is that website going?
Yeah, man, it's on the to-do list. And
don't click on it.
But when we bought this place, one of the stipulations of the deal was no inventory, no write down, from their side. So we didn't do a physical inventory. So we've been churning through a lot of very old inventory, a lot of inventory we thought was here that wasn't. And we've been donating to the Goodwill. We've been giving some away, and I finally feel like our inventory is accurate. And we're ready to institute a new POS system, which will be a nightmare for sure.
Always is, yeah.
And
but so good when you do.
Yeah, on the other side of it, and that's our biggest challenge right in front of us. The biggest challenge last year was a giant inventory write-down when we did the physical inventory. Good from a tax perspective, but not so good from a P&L perspective.
Yeah.
And this year, we've worked through all that, we need to institute the POS system and maybe a better buying system so we can keep track of our inventory and our projections and our cash flow. It should be relatively straightforward for us because this is a stable business that's plateaued. Like we're pretty stable. Like right now we're up about 20%, but that won't last long. We have a min-max we kind of operate at, max capacity, and it's really stable. There's not many surprises in this business.
Yeah.
And it's that being said, it's really predictable.
Yeah.
So our buying should be pretty straightforward and easy based on the predictability of the revenue coming in. And there are along those lines, there's other challenges like our back to school business just went away. Like everyone used to start school in the same week, more or less, in California or in the United States.
Right.
Now it's all over the place. There's a month. It's kind of like Easter, how people have their Easter breaks. It used to be super predictable around here. It was the week before Easter. That Sunday, all the kids were off and everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've even heard in Australia they do that too because they're trying to alleviate traffic problems, because we've all got traffic problems.
Yeah, but that throws our business into a tailspin because those traffic problems they correlate with the same times when you have these big business bumps and you have these promotions like built around these holidays.
Absolutely.
But when the holidays just kind of like turn into 6 holidays that aren't very popular versus one holiday, thank God they can't mess around with Christmas too much, but but the back to school
Donald Trump might have a go at that.
Yeah. Cancel Christmas. Yeah, but the back it happened to us with Easter break a couple of years ago, and the last 2 years it has happened with back to school. Back to school isn't what it was. Luckily July there's been a correlating kind of bump in July because of the popularity of the beach down here in season.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right, I got one really good question that I'm really interested in your answer on this, and that is, what is your overall view of the surf industry right now, and do you think that we've made mistakes as a whole, the surf industry, or is it just the way it is?
I personally I think that we've made catastrophic mistakes in the past. The biggest mistake that I think that we've made, and in my experience, I own 3 board rider clubs. I was the first Quicksilver board rider licensed store, with my partner Randy Hunt, who was one of the founders of Quicksilver. And I think one of the biggest mistakes the surf industry has made is having an inferiority complex in the boardroom and thinking they need to bring in outside talent in order to teach them how to run a business they've been running for decades.
Yeah.
And they bring in these guys that have the wrong playbook. Like a playbook's like an NFL team has a playbook, how many runs they're going to run, how many passes. And they feel like they need to bring in like an equity firm or somebody who brings in the playbook from a $14 billion company and tries to overlay that playbook on how to run a popular, $500 million surf company that is filled with nuance and subtlety. And they just want to hit the whole thing with a hammer a million times because that's what they did at their $14 billion company. We don't need to feel inferior. There's a lot of very smart like surfers and action sports guys.
Help's coming.
Who can exactly. There's a lot of very smart surfers and action sports guys who can run their own companies at every level. They don't need to feel inferior. They don't need to have a carpetbagger or a wolf in sheep's clothing come in to run their company for them. Because every time I've seen that happen so far to date, every time, 100%, they've ruined the company and the buck.
Yeah. So we got too greedy, is that what you're saying? Like, did we need to float surf companies? Did we need to make them public companies? Is that where it went wrong?
You're talking to a guy that sold his company twice.
No, but it seemed like when Billabong floated and Quicksilver were before that's when those guys came into the businesses and started poking around.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the shareholders became more important.
it brings it brings
That's the kind of control I have.
yeah.
where you have just click and point.
It's a working shop.
it brings more pressure into the business, you know,
Yeah.
because you all of a sudden you have like tens of thousands of shareholders who just like, you're bringing people into the business who have a different set of goals for that business. All they care about, like what I've constantly heard when I worked for a public company on the New York Stock Exchange, was the shareholders don't give a shit about the passion. They don't give a shit about about being true to your core values or your mission statement. All they care about is their return on investment, ROI. And there's no consideration for balancing that against the mission statement of the company or the core values of the company. Seems like those two things just go out the window. And I'm not saying it can't be done, but if I was going to take a company public, I would not do it. But I would caveat anyone's investment in there with, hey, look, this is our mission statement. Here's our core values. We care about people too, not just money. We care about our employees. We care about our customers. We don't just. You're not going to be the only person whose opinion matters in this is the investors.
Well, that's why they got where they were, right? So why would you walk away? But that's my point of view. I feel like
it's
we
baffling.
walked away from how the companies got to the size they were.
And it's baffling and confusing. And some of those companies did an okay job of running their publicly traded companies. It's just when they felt overwhelmed and brought in, you know, people who are kind of like the Wizard of Oz. You know, the guys. Little tiny guys with big, you know, faces, you know, controlling the little thing. Rah, I'm the wizard, and really the guy's this tall.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the wrong playbook.
Yeah.
And so, and that all comes, in my personal opinion, it all comes out of this unfounded inferiority complex that we have.
Yeah.
Like, we know how to run our businesses.
Yeah.
You know, there's no one that could. I don't care. The smartest guy in the world could come in here. He couldn't run this business better than we do. No way. He would fuck it up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, gosh. And so the next 5-10 years, are we in a clean out period, do you think, with the brands? Because, you know, I've seen with you guys, there's some new brands coming through. They're getting good support from the customers.
Yeah, I mean,
Is there a changing of the guard?
I think that I don't think there's any way around it, you know, like if a brand has just done too many things that might have hurt its, you know, growth in a store like this I mean, we can only do so much, you know, but I mean, we're patient. I think we're still willing to work pretty closely with the brands that are larger brands, as long as they're still committed to the helping our customers. And I'm in a place, you know, like I haven't gone to that level where I've had too much, and I'm trying to remember, you know, like, oh, what's that right place now? It's like I'm excited because I feel I'm watching the business go up just a little bit at a time in a nice, healthy way. I'm excited about the brands that we're bringing into the store, even excited still to work with the brands that are larger within the store and just plug away. And so, I don't know, I mean, I totally agree with EJ. There's been many mistakes, whether I fully have understood what they were or not, but you know, now it's a different, it's probably it's a different deal now, but I like the deal now. I mean, I like where we're at. Yeah.
You should be a politician, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
There's a clean out period going on.
Yeah, there's a clean out period going on.
And,
That's a long.
And yes,
long.
some of the old boys are moving on.
Yeah.
And
Right.
some of the new boys are plugging that opportunity. And as Visla and Billabong move on, as Quicksilver and Billabong move on completely,
Right.
Visla will fill that, what I call it is the surf turkey segment.
Yeah.
That's the wide one. That's not like the skater, the jeans, like that's, you know, surfers and aspirational surfers are huge. That's how you build $1 billion company.
Yeah.
And Visla is primed to do that. And those, the hard times that some of those big guys have experienced, I just don't see how they can get away from those things. You know, you can only be on the cover of whatever the Wall Street Journal with like your company at a penny a stock or go bankrupt and come back. It creates like a negative connotation, and people don't want to wear the stuff. You know, it's at the end of the day we all work for the consumer. You know, and we had a real nice Quicksilver retail business. We had 3 stores. We had one on Forest Avenue, one in Irvine Spectrum, and one at Fashion Island. We were humming right along, and then when they had that financial problem, dropped our sales about 15% because there was
Wow.
people that just didn't want to wear the stuff. You know, there's stockbrokers didn't want to wear Quicksilver woven because it was a penny stock at that point. And it took our sales down enough to take us from a really nice profit to a small loss.
Yeah.
And we ended up giving the stores back to those guys,
Wow.
giving them back.
Wow.
And it's just one of those things, you know, things change in this industry. And one of the things about these grommets that we all love so much is they always want to throw away what's old and get into what's new. No matter how good the old thing is, or maybe how, like, you know, quality, from a quality standpoint, dicey the new thing is. When I worked at Huntington Surf and Sport is when Rip Curl wetsuits first came out. It was before the Agrolite and Dawn Patrol and all that. They had this cross stitch deal, and their zippers always blew out. You know, it was like Wayne Lynch and all the ads and stuff. And they had the Rip Curl people had to bring us a repair kit for the store because those things just blew apart. We learned how to fix them ourselves.
Wow.
And I was kind of like a stodgy little grom at that point, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna just sell everybody O'Neill wetsuits because they last, they don't blow apart, they don't.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids would just walk out because I was being such a dick about it, and they really wanted the new Rip Curl wetsuit because it was like, it was Australian. They wanted ball and leg rope too. You know, it was Australian. It was new. It was exciting.
Yeah.
It was, and they were just frothy grommets. And like they're always going to be frothy grommets, and frothy grommets are always going to want the new thing. So it's our duty and responsibility here to develop new things, not just to ride the cash cow, but we always need to have new things in development. And it really hasn't been very promising since the global financial crisis. You know, there hasn't been a lot of new promising things coming out. And I saw some stuff in Oz, like Banks and some other ones. You know, we went on the retail tours that I would do, and it was encouraging to me because there wasn't a lot of that here, especially with potential to really get their roots down. But now it feels pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Hey, look, great talking to you guys. Thanks, Watto.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
Pleasure.
AJ.
Yeah, mate.
All the best
Good
with
stuff,
the
yeah.
New partnership, and I know you guys are going to kill it.